October 13th, 2019. Fortnite had just been engulfed in a black hole. After 2 days of uncertainty, Chapter 2 began. A new beginning. But in reality, the game we all knew, loved, and cherished had just ended. Only it would take us a couple more years to realize. Throughout the game's beginning and pinnacle in Chapter 1, Fortnite's public matches were simply a random 100 players put together in a lobby. It didn't go by any rule of skill or experience, thus most lobbies were a very appropriate representation of the average community skill. This order was not challenged by anyone or anything, and it was not perceived as a subject to change in any way. An argument about it was non-existent. And although attacks on overly competitive players and so-called sweats and tryhards had been a very common theme as early as Season 5,
oh, I see a pyramid streamer, by the way, are in the area.
Randomly chosen opponents were never considered, even theorized, to be a problem. This dynamic gave every win the same inherent value. Meaning, if a noob won his very first game,
oh my god,
that win had the same value as Ninja's or Tifu's win. It didn't discriminate players getting better at the game, but rather, the longer you played the game, the more chance you probably had at winning with your acquired experience and knowledge. Winning was not seen as a requirement to be having fun, or something necessary, but rather a noble goal which, when achieved, made you genuinely celebrate as you had just beaten 100 other players. The Fortnite experience was not limited to winning. For most casual players, it were the joys of progressing a battle pass through completing challenges, which felt achieving since battle stars were very limited at the time, and the drop of new challenges on Thursday was an exciting event by itself. Weekly challenges came with an in-game render loading screen, unraveling that season's story week by week. The island felt very personal, like a sacred place which was constantly changing, which grew old with memories of the places that were no longer with us, and overseeing thoughts of what could happen next. The story wasn't a complicated plot with heavy background or everything happening having a clear and direct explanation. It was more of a state of constant passage of time with occurring phenomenon, most of which were unexplained at the time but believed to be understood in the future. The island was the story, along with loading screens and trailers. It felt very alive, with places from loading screens and challenges being very reminiscent. There was a very healthy balance between the competitive and casual scenes, and it was not really like that. It felt more like a spectrum. Competitive Fortnite play had a major boost nearing the end of the chapter, with Arena added ahead of the biggest competitive event of all time, the Fortnite World Cup. A very self-explanatory detail from the time is the World Cup matches were not modified from the casual playlist matches a single bit. There was no need to have a different loot pool, any map changes, or modifications. Apart from the fact that there were 100 best players in the world playing, the World Cup games were no different from the casual players games at that time. However, the Fortnite World Cup was actually the beginning of the end. Fortnite was at its absolute peak for over a year at that time, and an immense hype from the World Cup and the storyline event. Yet, to Epic Games, it felt like the ideal moment to ruin everything. Season X turned out to be the most mediocre season up to date, and it came with the first direct attempt to allow worse players be more successful without actually trying. Average skill has been steadily rising each new season, and Epic felt like they had to act. The mechs became a symbol of Epic's delusion and an absolute violation of game integrity, while being immensely hated by the community.
Fuck the mechs! Why the fuck are they a fucking thing?
Instead of letting go, it made Epic double down a season later with a solution that reshaped core Fortnite from the roots and changed it forever. And now we have arrived to the point in time that destroyed our game without us even noticing. Chapter 2 came with a brand new skill-based matchmaking system in public matches that was supported by brand new AI-controlled players at the lowest level of skill. It was all overshadowed by a new map and chapter for the first time since the game was first launched, and faced no real backlash from players.
I've seen like a few tweets have tweeted out or talked about, hey, anybody else have like a bunch of bots in their games? Like just straight up like half the lobby is AI controlled? I'm just like, no.
But when we started realizing how terribly has this changed the environment of our beloved game, it was unfortunately too late. First of all, the system from the very beginning has been a lot different in practice than how it was presented. The bots, that were no better than free kills just standing in front of you, were not only used in lower skill games, but all games. If the only thing Epic wanted was to divide players based on skill, as much as that's a bad idea by itself, 100% player skill based matchmaking would have been enough. But bots were not meant for that. Bots were used as a mean of diluting down games, so that more than average 1% of games were won by each player. But the game could still brand itself as a 100-player battle royale. This is evident because even the highest skilled lobbies continue to this day, have even half the lobby or more filled with bots. This has created an absolutely atrocious balance where, in an overwhelming amount of games, a player is either very good at the game or a bot. Thus, instead of looking for the best spot to be in the upcoming circle, weighing your options to take a fight or not, and being cautious of every opponent, the in-game experience has been belittled into figuring out if someone is a human player or a bot. This all has been done on the principle that players love winning, so let's make them win more. But apart from the fact that a win completely lost its value, since a 99 bot win is obviously not the same as the highest skill-based matchmaking win, even though it was now viewed as such by the game itself, winning became a lot less exciting and celebratory because there is now more winning. Think of it in terms of sports. In soccer, a team is usually expected to score anywhere from 0 to about 3 goals per game. But when a team scores, their fans are in ecstasy. In basketball, a team hits a basket on average about 40 times a game. Look at the fans. They're barely clapping. This is how winning had felt in Chapter 1. This is how winning has felt ever since. After each win, instead of being proud, you wonder how many bots were actually in this game. Bots and skill-based matchmaking had not only destroyed entire gameplay authenticity, but had also actively supported the problem they were meant to counter: the skill gap between newer and seasoned players. Back in Chapter 1, everybody was put in the same lobby. New players from the beginning were subjected to all players there are, Somebody's first game probably wasn't a win, but every other game was gonna be about the same, and that allowed the assimilation to be rather quick and getting better fairly linear. Of course, the biggest difference from any game out there was building, which made Fortnite Fortnite, but trying to get better at something isn't a burden. The progress is the fun. And this setting was also the biggest fuel for the most known and legendary Fortnite creators.
She hit me earlier, bro. Come on, kill her. Kill her. Kill her.
A lot of them disappeared or was never the same right after Chapter 1. It was not a coincidence. Today's matchmaking seems to fix the problem in the short term, but bad players don't improve fighting stood-still AI opponents, and long-term players only have to try harder to keep up with the demand of skill-based matchmaking. And it's all under the thin impression of fixing the skill gap between good and bad players. However, the real and only objective is to make players more satisfied by making them win more. All players. New players have 100% bot lobbies. Other players in higher skill-based matchmaking games are only a ruse to make you think you're still competing against real opponents, while bots have been inadvertently poured into all levels of skill. But this system has recently been challenged. Outrage has been spreading across the Fortnite community. Players have, too late to change anything, realized what had happened. It was, coincidentally, right after bots and skill-based matchmaking were, for the first time in over 5 years, not present in the brought back to be done properly OG mode. In a single day, players had realized that Fortnite was more fun knowing every opponent is real. That Fortnite was more fun when any player could be anybody. That the games themselves, for most players, were actually easier than before. That a 3-kill top 26 game is infinitely more fulfilling than a 6-bot kill top 7 while they were still bots alive after you died game. It was like that feeling was lost to history. We knew something was wrong, but it was infinitely better than even our wildest dreams. That day, Epic knew they had made a mistake. Not only with allowing no bot and skill-based matchmaking games, but with allowing OG itself. Since that day, we have witnessed a continuous effort to sabotage the OG mode. Needless to say, they have been successful. More recently, however, they've decided to strike their hardest hit yet. A new queue option for OG has been announced, seemingly as an option for those demanding no bots and no skill-based matchmaking. However, from the very beginning, the mode has been deliberately designed to be a mess. It is called Expert Mode in order to be viewed as the hard version of the game and dismissed by most. It was only Duo's build, and later Solo's Zero build, to be inconvenient on purpose. It is only 70 max players per game to still feel like it is not a full game of players. And now, bots have been added to the mode. The no bot, no skill based matchmaking mode is now the bot mode, just with no skill based matchmaking. Epic has silenced all the voices by adding another bot mode that commonly has more bots than the normal base OG mode. Meanwhile, half of OG has been wasted away already, with no visible light at the end of the tunnel for us patriotic OG players.